Okay, that's good.
Well, hello, Joy. Thank you so much for being
Hi,
here on the
Joe.
show. Yes, I'm so
Thank
happy
you so
to
much
have
for
you
having
here.
me.
Yes, absolutely. And what's even more wonderful is that you're part of my Facebook community group. So
Yeah,
that's amazing. And you are an author, which I can't wait to start talking about
yeah,
all things Camino, which I know we talked just briefly that that's been on my bucket list is
yes,
to get to the Camino. And I had actually really was planning a lot of it pre-COVID, and then all
yeah,
that happened. And I'm kind of glad that I didn't go this summer because this summer was pretty busy on the Camino from what I've
yes.
heard. So because everybody was finally, I think, able to make those travel arrangements and get out there. But so tell me first, which Camino, because there's several Camino routes
Yeah.
that you can do. But tell us which one you chose, and then why did you choose to actually walk, as we call the Way of St. James?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So
I mean, as you say, there are so many. I didn't realize. I mean, I walked for the first time in 2019.
okay, yeah.
And I'd never done any long distance hiking before. So I'd heard of the way, obviously, but
Hmm.
I didn't know there were so many routes. So a friend of mine, he said you should start with the French side, because that way you walk through the 5 most beautiful French villages, which actually I think is a total understatement because I walked through far more than that.
Oh, yeah.
But so I started looking at Le Puy-en-Velay. So you can go from Le Puy-en-Velay all the way to Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port, which is the French side. But then I've started watching YouTube videos, and I saw that people carried on, because then you can go on the Camino Frances, which is the typical one that everybody thinks about, with the film with Martin Sheen and everything. That's
Yeah.
what he thinks.
Yeah. Okay.
So you can walk that to Santiago. But if you prefer, there's a northern route,
Hmm.
which is meant to go along the northern coast of Spain, and you go down to Santiago as well. Then there's another one. I don't remember if it's you or somebody else on your blog who was interested in walking the Portuguese way.
Yeah.
So that goes from Porto all the way up to
Mhm.
Santiago.
Yeah.
And then there are loads of other, obviously, traditionally, people started at home and they just walked all the way to Santiago as a pilgrimage to see
Right.
St. James.
Right.
But there's a Primitivo now that goes over the mountains that you can do as part of the northern route to take you down to the Camino Frances, or there are loads of different options. But yeah, so I decided in 2019 to walk from Le Puy-en-Velay all the way to Santiago. And then I saw people, they actually carry on and they
Mhm.
walk to the coast, because at the time, in medieval times, that was considered to be the end of the world. So you can carry on to Fistera, which means the end of the world, and to Murcia. There are two. So I did the whole thing in
Oh,
the end, and then I walked back to Santiago. So I did 1,754 kilometers the first year, but it was yeah, it
and
was a hell of a long
how
way.
long did
But
that take you? How many
that
days?
took me 3 months.
3 months.
Yeah, but I know obviously it depends how long people have, because
Right.
obviously not. I didn't have any time restrictions, but often people will only have like 2 or 3 weeks a year.
Hmm.
So then, the way I did it, I kind of calculated roughly how many kilometers I walk a day,
Hmm.
and so that I would end up in Santiago around the end of October, because
Okay.
the problem is that once you get into like Galicia, the weather is really, really bad. They have an awful lot of rain, and it doesn't just rain in Galicia, it absolutely chucks it down. So you don't really want to go too far into the autumn. Actually, I had some injury problems along the way, so it took me longer than expected.
Okay.
And I arrived in Santiago after having done Fiesta Mushi for the last time. But the last whole month of my Camino, I was walking in torrential rain every day. So if
Oh,
you can avoid that, I would recommend it.
Yes.
So, just, but I mean, you can even walk it in the winter, but then obviously there's less accommodation.
Yeah.
But
I do. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
you
an
can walk
issue.
it. So, yeah.
I
And
think
I chose to walk it because I'd gone through a really hard 10 years. I'd lost my mum in 2007. Then I went through cancer myself in 2009. Then my father got sick in 2015. So I looked after him until he died. And then my husband, sadly, he'd fallen in love with a perverse narcissist. And so she'd been controlling and manipulating him for 10 years. But in 2019, she decided it was time for them to be together and to get rid of me. So in the space of 4 months, my whole life fell apart. He announced that he wanted to get divorced in 2019. And in May, we were already divorced. We signed the papers. So it was so quick. And I was like completely demolished. I was destroyed.
wow,
And
okay.
two friends of mine, they said, Joy, a lot of people, when they go through troubles in life, they walk the Camino because it's meant to be really healing.
Yes.
So because two people said that to me, I thought, yeah, this is a sign. And I love walking. So I just thought, yeah, I'll go for it. And I really didn't regret it. It really is a magical path. Hiking is great, getting back into nature. But there's something very special about the Camino because I think that there are different people, different types of people who walk it. There are the religious ones who do it for the spiritual reason. But then there are other people who do it as a sporty challenge. And then there are people who are at a crossroads in life, who have gone through health issues, and they do it as a salutary hike just to heal. And it's wonderful because it not unlike on a normal hike where you'll just meet other people and say hi and just carry on the way you meet and they actually want to share. Everybody wants to share. So there are kind of three classic questions when you meet someone. It's how heavy is your pack? How are your feet? And the next question is always, why did you choose to walk the way? And you all share and you get different perspectives on what you've been through. So you evolve and you grow and it all really helps you heal. So yeah, it's a wonderful thing to do. And as I say, you don't have to do the whole thing in one if you don't have enough time. A lot of people, they do like 2 weeks and they'll stop and they start the following year where they left off, and then gradually you make it all the way to Santiago. And there are loads of people from America who come, from Canada, even from Australia. I walk with people from Australia, so it's very international.
Yes. Yes. I'm so glad you shared because I know that the Caminos are known, like you said, as a pilgrimage, but there are many reasons why people choose to make that journey and do that walk.
Exactly.
So I love that you shared that because everybody's reason will be different.
Yeah.
Just like, my reason to go in 2019, which was kind of when I wanted to go as well. I think it's changed now if I go back, so I didn't go, but
It was really strange because I actually walked in 2020 as well. I was very lucky.
Okay.
So in 2019, everybody was still in big dormitories. Because that's the cheap way to do it. You stay in a dormitory and you can be like, small ones are like 10, 12 people in a dormitory, but it can go up to like 300. They have partitions, so you don't feel like you're in a factory. The really, really important point, if you do it, take earplugs, because there's so much noise, with all of the snoring at night. It's become a real problem.
That's a great suggestion. Yes.
Yeah. So
I don't like
I
snoring.
had that no problem. I had that in 2019. And then in 2020, we were literally, that year I walked from Via de la Plata up to Santiago, because that was one of the only routes that was still open.
Oh, okay.
Everything else shut down, because of COVID.
Right.
But that was still safe. So, and I was desperate that year to carry on walking because I'd started to heal in 2019, but I wasn't fully healed in 2020, and I desperately needed to get back on the path.
Yeah.
And we were literally like 10 people that year from the whole of the Camino. So it was that was a totally different experience. And then obviously in 2021, everything was still shut. And now people are starting to go back. And so it's, as you say, it's become really, really busy.
Yeah.
The problem is, for example, on the northern route, there are still a lot of albergue that haven't opened again since COVID. All of the pilgrim albergues, they haven't opened. So you're stuck on the northern route, you're stuck with normal tourists in other types of hostels. So, it's not so fun. But now I was really lucky, I think, to have walked it in 2019, because I think things have drastically changed since then.
Yes. Well, on those, I mean, you've done it 3 times. It sounds like different routes each time, but
yeah, I've walked 3 camp, but even a little bit more, because when I did the northern route, I carried along, because for me that was the most frustrating route. I seriously wouldn't recommend that to anybody, because you think I thought I was going to be walking along the coast, but most of the time you're actually quite a bit inland. Because if you think about it, it's logical, because pilgrims at the time, they weren't there to have a good time, they were just there to get straight to Santiago, and it was a dangerous place, because there were robbers and murderers and things, and they were actually pilgrims at the time. They could be killed, so it wasn't like a nice jaunt like it is nowadays. So, but I can't remember where I was going with this.
You said you wouldn't recommend the north. Just because you said there's not a whole lot of places to stay, maybe, and you're not along the coast. I thought it was along the coast too. So
and so then so then I walked. I tried to stay as close to the coast as I could, because that's what I wanted to do. So then I added on the Camino del Mar, which goes even further along the coast, and then I took the Camino Inglés, which is another Camino down.
English, the English way, and then came down.
Exactly.
I've seen that.
So there are so many different routes.
Yes, there are.
The world is your oyster.
I know. Along any of those routes that you did, what unexpected event or occurrence happened on the trail that surprised you?
Oh gosh. I wasn't expecting, what I wasn't expecting was to meet all of these people. I set out alone, and I thought I was just going to be doing a lot of introspection and working on myself and healing. But it didn't work that way at all. I was never, ever alone. Obviously, walking 3 months, I didn't expect to be with the same group all the time. But so I thought, after a while, I'm going to start being alone. And it's just not true. You walk another day and you meet a whole new group of people. So I think that was the most amazing thing for me. It was to all of the people I met, because I wouldn't have healed so well, I think, if I hadn't been with the other people. Because as I say, when I was alone, I didn't actually, or perhaps I haven't said this yet, but when I was alone, I didn't actually think about anything. I was just like living in the moment. Everybody talks about, you can't control the future, and you can't change the past, so just live in the present moment. But I think in real life, that's really hard to do, because we've all got such a lot going on, and we're always really busy, like flying left, right, and center. But on the Camino, all you have to do is you just walk all day long, and all you have to worry about is getting a place to stay for the night and some food. So the rest of the time you're just like sharing with these other people or being by yourself. And when I was by myself, I just found I just thought about nothing. And I was just like, yeah, living in the moment,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
was really amazing.
Which is, like you said, hard to do because I think we're always thinking about the next thing or what we have to do, our to-do list kind of thing. So
Yeah,
I think it's a
yeah,
sounds like the Camino is a great way, whatever reason you choose to just, like you said, be in the present moment. I love that. I think
yeah,
for me, hiking in general is that way for me. You're just kind of there in the present moment, which is a nice break from everything
exactly,
else, right?
exactly. I think another other thing was like I was kind of expecting it to be a lot more religious than it was,
Mm,
because I mean a lot of the places that you stay, they're run by priests or by nuns.
okay. Okay.
And I was kind of thinking, they're going to be judging everybody
Mm,
because, I mean, I'm spiritual, but I'm really not religious. And I thought they would be quite judgmental, but they're not at all. They're really, really welcoming, and they're very grounded. They give you really good advice. They'll set up a lot of sharing meetings, so
oh,
you'll
nice.
sit around with other pilgrims in a
Yeah.
room and you all share your stories, and they actually provide really good advice,
Oh,
which really helps you. So
yeah.
so that was unexpected.
Yes, I like
Um,
that. I like that a
yeah.
lot.
But I mean, nothing. Obviously, there are injuries, which you don't expect in advance.
Right.
But and there are ways of getting around that. If I knew now what if I'd known at the time what I know now, I would have it's really, really important to start slowly. So just if you can walk 8-10 kilometers a day until your body gets used to carrying a heavy rucksack.
Hmm.
Because we all walk,
Yes,
but in real life, you don't have like
a
I don't
pack
know.
on. Right.
My pack was 13 kilos, so that's considered far too heavy, For
Oh,
my weight at the
okay.
time, I should have been carrying like 6 kilos, according to
Oh,
the Camino experts. I just can't. I mean, I repacked the thing like 4 times before I left, and there was no way I could get it down. But I just gone through a really hard time, and a lot of people said to me, "You're not ready, or you've lost everything, so
mm,
you're not ready to like
yeah,
discard
yeah,
unnecessary things."
right.
um, I mean, we all have like there's the basic pack, so it's like two or three changes of clothes,
Okay.
underwear and then t-shirts. I had a polar as well because I was walking through 2 different seasons. I was walking through the summer plus the autumn.
Okay.
So I'd like prepared for that. So I had a polar and a rain jacket and a
Mhm.
poncho all ready for the rain and
Yep.
that's really important, a poncho. But don't just choose one of these kind of flag things that fly everywhere. You see people, it's just
Yes.
like a sheet that they
Yes.
put over them. But that's a complete waste of time. Just make sure your poncho has long sleeves and fits really well over your body and over your pack, and
Yes.
obviously with a good hood. A lot of people, they wear actually a cap underneath, which keeps the hood, because a
Oh,
lot
the
of
rain
hoods
coming on.
kind of
Yeah.
fall down. So if you have a cap underneath it, it keeps the hood away from your eyes better,
Oh,
which is
I like
quite a
that.
good tip. And gaiters and stuff, but and then everybody will have a little extra. Like I have tiny tubes, like silicone tubes, obviously of shampoo, but my little bit of luxury is having conditioner as well.
Yeah.
So which
For your,
isn't necessary,
for your curly hair, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. We
exactly.
need our
Because otherwise everything gets such a mess. But yeah, so but no, it's yeah, so I learned that. Um
Well, how would you recommend preparing physically maybe for the
yeah,
community?
I mean, you'll see a lot of videos, people don't prepare at all because, like for me, it just came out of the blue. So, I mean, I had done no physical training before I left at all. I mean, obviously, if you can like go out and walk for a month with a pack on your back, but I know very few people who actually do that. You don't really necessarily need to prepare a lot in advance. If you just, like I say, if you start really slowly, the key thing, so to start slowly, take lots of breaks. If your feet get hot, as soon as you'll feel your feet getting warm, stop, have a 10-15 minute break, take your socks and your shoes off so that your feet can air, and that helps to stop blisters. Don't walk too far each day, too quickly, because people tend to, especially if they've only got 2 or 3 weeks to walk, they tend to like charge at it as if they're running a marathon, and they get blisters, tendonitis. You see pilgrims along the way, and we all go through it, but that we're all strapped up with physio straps, and
All right.
people limping along, and with blisters. But it's a bit disgusting, but you can actually pop your blisters and drain them, and then put there's a thing called Compi, so it's like a padded plaster, and that helps them heal. So that's
all the little tricks
to know. But it's if you take things slowly, then you should be fine, and you really don't need to train up that much. And just keep your pack as light as you possibly can. But don't get too because a lot of people and a lot of the albergues and the gîtes that you'll stay at, they'll criticize your pack. I mean, everybody criticized my pack. If it's anything over like 10 kilos, they're going to criticize it. And at the end of the day, I just got so fed up with everybody. I didn't tell other people how to walk their Camino and how to run their albergue. And I just said at the end, I don't give you advice. This is my business. And then they understood that. Okay, this one we leave her alone. Don't get because they do that's the only thing that I really didn't like about the Camino, because you don't get that in hiking normally, but that they do become very concentrated on the importance of having a light pack, and it's really that's everybody their own personal business. And we don't choose to walk with a heavy pack. If we could walk with 4 kilos, we would do, but there are ways around that too. By a lot of people, you don't have to walk with your pack. You can have it shipped on. There's a service. I think I've given you a link to one of the phone app for Buen Camino, which gives you information about accommodation, the different routes, how many degrees you gain and lose each day. So there's a lot of, and there's a link in there to how people can get their packs
from one
on.
to another.
Well,
they actually if you walk the Appalachian Trail here in the US,
I would love to do that. That's one of my dreams. That's on my
they get a little
bucket list.
They get a little judgy too about how heavy your pack is. There's
I think that's kind of the same thing, because I've seen people, they group into, they kind of have route families as well, that people that they get to walk with and they get to know.
Yes. It's similar. It's like it takes if you do, a through hike, as they call it, it takes about 3 months. To finish. So or you can do section hiking. You do a section, like you mentioned before, like some people do part of the Camino and then they'll come back later, because that's a long time to, in the US we get 2 to 3 weeks off, maybe, if you're lucky. And so it's a little hard to, unless you're a school teacher, then maybe you have the summer off and you can, squeeze it in. But it's kind of similar.
Well, I walk really slowly. I mean, so it would take me probably even longer than 3 months.
And I think that's the whole point of, not only, just any hike, really any like you're talking about Caminos here, like you're doing it in your own timing. It's for you.
Absolutely.
It's you have your own why of why you're doing it. So,
Yeah,
your journey is going to be different than that person walking next to you possibly that day. So, I think just keeping true to, what your reasoning and purpose
absolutely.
is,
And that is another dangerous thing on the Camino, because you do meet people, obviously, that you like them, and you want to get to know them better. So
yeah.
there is tendency you can up your speed, to stay with them.
Hmm.
And that's when injuries happen, and you get blisters too, because so it's really, really important to listen to your body,
Hmm.
and to walk at your own speed. And basically there's a kind of Camino rule that if somebody else wants to walk with you, both of you have to slow down to the slowest person's speed,
Oh,
because otherwise it's not, so if you want to walk with someone, you should start to try and walk with them, and you see that they're kind of speeding ahead, it's probably because they don't want to actually be with you. So you have to be a little bit
little sign, right?
yeah, exactly. There are
Oh,
different tactics to get rid of people if you don't want to walk with them, and you haven't got the nerve to say, sorry, we're not on the same wavelength here,
yeah, yeah. Okay.
but you either speed ahead or you slow down, and and those are two tactics to get rid of people. So if you see
That's
you see
funny. I'll
one
have
of
to
those,
remember that.
yeah.
So what was your favorite part of the walk? You
Oh,
did a
that was,
couple, so I know that's probably hard to narrow it down.
for me, it's really easy. It's my favorite, because as you say, as you probably can imagine, you walk through masses of amazing villages and cities and countryside. I mean, the views are absolutely stunning, especially when you go over the Pyrenees. That's
Oh
just
gosh,
incredible.
yes.
But for me, the really important place for me was a place called the Iron Cross. Um, and that's after Fonsbaden. And it's literally just an iron cross. It's like a really long wooden pole with an iron cross at the top. And tradition has it that you take a stone from your homeland, and that's meant to represent all of your worries. And you get to the iron cross and you leave the stone at the iron cross, and then you walk into your future
Hmm.
light-hearted, and leaving all of your burdens behind you. So that, obviously, for me, it was
Yes,
the
I love
most
that
important.
symbolism
Yeah,
too. Just for
it's
anybody.
absolutely amazing.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you do it, don't forget your rock, because
Okay, I have to bring a rock from Texas.
not too big, because
Right, right.
having a light pack, that's really important.
That's funny. Well, do you have any other plans for any other hikes or pilgrimages?
Um, um, I mean, yes, there are two pilgrimages I still want to do. I want to do the El Primitivo, which goes over the mountains, um, on the northern coast. So that's definitely something I want to do. And I want to do the Portuguese way up to, but I'm going to start down the southern, I'm going to walk across southern Portugal,
Start in
and then
Lisbon?
there's a walk called the Fisherman's Trail that goes
Oh,
up
yes,
to
yes, yes,
Porto,
yes,
and then I'm going to
yes.
walk.
I
Yeah,
yes. I've
yeah,
actually was reading about
that
that.
that is
Okay.
so beautiful.
Yeah.
Apparently, I've had friends who've walked it, and it's
Okay.
absolutely amazing. So
Yeah.
those are the pilgrimages that I want to do. But I mean, I've started to do that was my introduction to hiking. But since then, I've done other hikes as well, because the following year, after 2020, when I walked the Via de la Plata, which is another amazing pilgrimage. But if you haven't done a pilgrimage before, I would really recommend starting with the Camino Frances, because that's the traditional one, and there are lots of albergue along there, places to stay. You really don't have to worry about anything. You don't have to take camping gear or anything like that. You can just you know, there are lots of restaurants, so it's a really good introduction. I would say the Via de la Plata, you don't want to do that until you've certainly done one pilgrimage before, because the stages are a lot longer, so you don't have a choice of cutting your days shorter.
Right.
And it's very, very hot. But I mean, that's another kind of thing that's really important to take into account as well when you walk.
Yeah, I was going to ask
Like
you.
you were saying, it's so busy nowadays. If you
Yeah.
can avoid the summer, that would be really good. So if you either walk in the spring or the autumn, you
So
know.
those are the
So
best times of the year to walk the Camino.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
But obviously not arriving in Santiago in Galicia when it's pouring down with rain. So
No, you said
yeah,
get there before the end of
that's
October, it
kind of
sounds like.
before the end of
Yeah,
October, and
yeah,
then you'll be fine.
yeah. No, that's great.
Yeah.
It sounds like you found a love for hiking in general
Oh
now.
yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
So then I did the GR131 over the Canary Islands, which is absolutely incredible jewel of a hike. Not many people
Wow.
know about it.
Yeah.
I was literally the only person doing that the year I did it.
Ah,
But that is incredible hike. It's like over the mountains all the time. You go through the center of each island, and each island is different. So I did the whole 9 Canary Islands. So that's just like a really, really beautiful hike to do. And this year I did the 5 Pilgrim Trail in Scotland, and the 5 Coastal Way, which is near St Andrews. So that was really beautiful. And then I walked the Via Alpina over the Swiss Alps
okay.
this summer. So that's an incredible hike as well. Yeah, so I mean, literally once you've done one, I think it becomes a little bit like a drug, you know, and you just
Yes, yes.
personally, I just want to keep going. So now I've like started, I spend my whole time when I can, I hike and I write about the adventures that I've had on my hikes. It's yeah, that's become my new way of life.
Yay. Sounds like it provided you with the healing you needed. So
Yeah,
before I get into, you mentioned your book and writing, just a recommendation. Obviously, it sounds like walking the Camino is safe for solo
yeah,
women. Because,
absolutely. I mean, literally, as I said, I mean, I started solo.
yes,
I and I thought I was going to walk the whole way by myself, that there's massive accommodation. Everybody you meet, even the men, that there's absolutely no sexual tension. You know, like in real life, like opposite sexes, you start to eye each other up straight away. And but there's nothing sexual at all. It's just a joining of souls. Everybody mixes, which is incredible. I've never seen that anywhere else. But despite your age, religious convictions, color of your skin, there's no racism, there's no judgment. It's really, and young people will talk to old people. There are no boundaries.
yeah, I love that.
It's really, really wonderful. I've never experienced that anywhere else but on the Camino. And it's every Camino that I've done, it's the same. You know, there's just like, you leave all of your prejudices at home, and it's
I love
there
that.
are no arguments about religion or politics, or it's amazing. Yeah.
Awesome. So you chronicle, I guess, what you did on that Camino in your book. Can you tell us a little bit about
Exactly.
that book?
Yeah. So it's called Invincible by Joy Alway. It was published by Pegasus Publishers.
Okay, yeah.
And it's literally, it's the story of my life. So I always wanted to write a book, but I felt my life was just too boring, you know, because I grew up in the countryside, and nothing really ever happened to me. And then suddenly I'd been through death of my both parents and cancer and this horrible, horrible divorce. So I thought, now you've actually got something to write about. And it was very cathartic. When I got home after the Camino in November, I just thought I need to, I did it for different reasons. I wanted my boys to know my side of the story because they'd gone through it a lot with their father, but they didn't actually know what had happened to me. So I wanted them to know my side of the story.
Yeah.
And then also I find in life, we don't really talk to our parents very much, when we're growing up. I was exactly the same. You take them for granted, and they're there to provide a stable home, food,
Yep.
but I'd never asked them about what they believed or felt or thought about things in life until I actually spent time with my father. And I thought, I'd like my boys to actually know who I am. So that was another reason why I wrote the book. And it really was cathartic. It helped me reprocess everything and look at everything, but from a distance. So then you look at things slightly differently and you understand things better. And then, of course, with all of the editing that goes into the process, I mean, that's never ending. So you're always going through the same things over and over again. So now I'm really healed because, I didn't only walk the walk, I went through it in real life, but I also dealt with everything again while writing the book. So it's, I hope it's kind of inspirational to people if they read it, because it does show people, well, I hope it shows people that whatever things you go through in life, don't give up. And you can cope with anything. You can do anything in life if you just put your mind to it. Some of the hikes I've done, I think if I thought about what I was actually really getting myself into, the ascents and descents and how hard it could be, I wouldn't do it. And I think one of the secrets in life is to never let fear govern your life. If it doesn't work out, if you don't like it when you're actually out there, you can always stop and come home. But go for it, try it.
Yes.
And
I love that. That nugget of inspiration and truth. Yeah, I would completely agree.
So, and I just wanted to kind of get all of that out. And I'm very lucky, my book has been published. So, and there's a follow-up coming up, hopefully in the new year.
Okay.
So this is the beginning of hopefully.
Nice. Yeah, your writing career. See, it opened up. Sounds like it's opened up a whole new life for you. Both the hiking and the writing, and I love that combination.
And I mean, the people who've actually read it so far, they say it's a very special book. So it's and my dream is funny, is that one day Julia Roberts will perhaps read my book somehow. I've actually sent her a copy, but I don't know if she'll get it. And then she'll want to make it into a film.
Movie. Yeah.
So it will become like a bestseller and like an Oscar-winning film with Julia Roberts. So that's the dream. But so go out and buy it, please, everybody.
So is that something they can get on Amazon? Or I know you sent me.
Yeah, you can get it on Amazon or through Pegasus Publishers.
Okay. And I'll make sure I include those links in the show notes.
So thank you so much, Cheryl. Yeah.
So they can find it more easily. But it's called Invincible.
Invincible
by Joy.
Alway.
Yeah. So awesome. Well, Joy, it's been such a pleasure to have you on
the show. Thank you so much.
And
it's been such fun.
All the Camino ideas and advice. I love it because it's going to get me all ramped up, because I really, really want to do the Portuguese way. Is kind of what because of the time frame. I know I can do from Porto, and I can go from Lisbon, but I think if I do Porto up to Santiago, that I think it's like 12 days or so, approximately, depending on how fast or slow you walk. But
Yeah, I think yeah, it's maximum. It's between 10 and 14. I think it
yeah,
depends how
so
quickly
I think
you
that
walk.
might be doable for me. And
Yeah.
all this advice you've given has been wonderful. And anybody else that, maybe that Camino is on your bucket list, right? We want
Yeah.
to get out there.
I mean, and if anybody, because obviously we don't have all day, I could talk about this
Yeah.
all day long, but if people have got other questions, just tell them to put them in the comments underneath, and
Okay.
I'll willingly answer any questions,
Okay.
not just about that, but any of the other hikes I've done. Yeah.
Yes, that'd be
So,
awesome. Thank you. You'll be our
yeah, no
Camino
problem.
expert, right?
Oh, no, there are real people who've like walked way more Caminos than me.
Yes,
But,
yes, yes. Well,
it
again,
is a great introduction, and as we've said, it's safe for solo
yeah,
female
yeah.
hikers, and it's very international. So for Americans, there's really no problem. Everybody speaks English,
Oh,
especially once you get onto the Spanish side. So
okay. That's good to
yeah,
know
it's
too.
it's
But like you said, it's very international. I have international listeners, so um,
yeah.
yeah, so you get all
There are a
kinds.
lot of Koreans, there are a lot of Canadians, Australians,
Yeah,
American.
good.
Not that many English actually, but
Really? I would have
yeah, a
thought
lot of
that there.
Spanish,
Okay.
because perhaps I should just mention there are a few things that you really do need to, if you choose to walk the Camino. You need a credential, which you can get in advance from the Santiago Cathedral. So I've given you a link for that, if
Yes.
perhaps you can just put that below.
Yes.
And you need that to get cheap accommodation, and when you get what's called a Compostela, which is a certificate when you get to
Yeah.
Santiago. But you need to get those things. To get the Compostela, you need to walk at least the last 100 kilometers of the Camino. So that's really important to people.
Yeah.
They have to do the last 100 kilometers, and you have to have that stamped at least once a day at the beginning. And once you get into the last 100 kilometers, you have to stamp it twice. So it's just important for people to know this, because people don't tell you this in advance. So if you don't know, I've heard of people who aren't allowed to get their Compostela because they haven't had their credentials stamped enough during their hike. So those are
Okay.
really important
Yeah.
things.
So it's almost like, because there's some places, like even in the US, where you have to get a permit to hike a certain hike.
Yeah,
And
I
same
mean,
with like,
for the Camino, you don't have to have a permit.
but
And
it's
you
similar, you
can't.
have to apply for that
Yeah, I mean,
permit.
if you want to stay in a hotel, that's not so important. But if you want to stay in the gîte and the albergue, which is especially for pilgrims,
Yeah.
then you
Okay.
need to have
Okay.
the credential. So yeah, it's like a pilgrim passport. And,
Yes.
and it's a nice souvenir anyway,
Yeah.
because you get every
I love
place
that.
stamps it for you. And so when you get home, you've got this, like, I mean, I had two, because obviously I've been walking so long, but I had two with like beautiful stamps.
Yes.
And people, you can get them framed as well. So
Yeah. I
it
love
makes
that
a
idea.
really nice souvenir if you not want to put it on the wall. Yeah, so it's cool.
Awesome. Good advice. Yes, we all like our souvenirs sometimes, right?
Yeah.
To show that we did this and it happened. So thank you for that last little tip there.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah,
meant to say it before, but
yeah,
that's really important,
good.
because if you do it, yeah,
Good.
you need the
Excellent.
passport.
Well, thank you again. It's been a
Pleasure.
delight. And I'll make sure I post some of those links, especially to your book, for those that want to get more in depth about, your experience.
Yeah, I mean, literally, I say everywhere I've stayed, I talk about my
Oh,
roots. I talk
see, that's
about
awesome.
there are a couple of people who are actually kind of using it as a guidebook.
Yeah.
It's not a traditional guidebook,
Yeah.
obviously, but Yeah, yeah, hopefully it's inspirational for people too. You know, if you're planning a hike, it's nice to see how somebody else
Yeah.
has done it.
Yes,
And
I
and
agree.
I talk about all of the lows and the highs, so hopefully people can learn from my mistakes too, and do it slightly better than me with a lighter
Well,
pace.
I mean, everybody's going to do it differently. That's all I
Yeah,
about it. So
exactly,
awesome.
exactly.
Well, thank you again, Joy, and I
Oh,
appreciate your
pleasure.
time. And this has been a delight. So
Oh, it's been gorgeous. Yeah, thank you
thank
very
you
much.
again. You're
Thank you for
welcome.
having me.
Absolutely. All right.